All right, so today on the Blueprint Podcast, we are talking trucking. I got my boy Marty, who's gonna come in and show us what the next generation of truckers are doing to build their businesses fast, get to six figures. It's gonna be awesome. Marty's actually pulling up in the truck right now, as you can see right through the window. He's pulling his truck up. He's gonna give us a tour of the truck, and we're gonna get to learn all about the trucking industry. If you're interested in the trucking industry or have been in it before, this is gonna be an action-packed episode. So yeah, let's go downstairs and meet Marty. Gotta swing that thing. Marty, what up, what up?
All right.
Man, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, bro. Man, cool. It's hot out here. We in Houston. We appreciate you bringing out the truck. So why don't you give us a quick little tour of the truck and then tell us, some cool, interesting facts about it, and then we'll head inside and finish up the episode.
Sure thing.
Sound good? Cool, man. Well, hey, what we got here?
We got a 2019 International.
Okay.
So it's a double bunk. So there's two beds on the inside.
Okay.
A little dirty on the inside because I haul grain, so it's
Okay.
really dusty in there, but don't mind that.
Yeah.
We have the Tempe Super Hopper.
Nice.
So this is a grain trailer.
Okay.
So anything that is food grade, I can haul it. If it's fertilizers, I can haul it. As long as it's nothing harsh like rocks or something like that.
Okay.
You can do that. This baby can carry. This thing can probably carry 90 to 100,000 pounds.
Wow.
So
dude, that's crazy. What are some of I guess some of the things people don't know about trucking? We see these trucks all the time, but what are some of the myths or maybe things most the average person wouldn't know about these trucks?
Everything's your fault.
Really? So a lot of liability then, it sounds like.
A lot of liability. It does take time for you to get used to, the handling of it because, let's say if you make a left turn or a right turn, you don't think anything of it, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's all about geometry. I got to make sure it's the right angle because if you don't turn right, you don't get enough space.
Right.
You're gonna run into something and crash into something.
Right.
So space is really important when you're dealing with these trucks, man.
Okay. Man, that's crazy. Is there anything else cool on these trucks that you want to show us? Anything that's kind of noteworthy?
Everything's cool, but
yeah. I feel like I've just walked around a trucks all the time. I've just never had anybody I could ask questions about them. So I'm just really curious, kind of what makes up a truck? What are all these components that kind of?
Yeah. So I guess high level.
Yeah.
You have your tractor.
Right.
You have your trailer. You look over here. We call this an air ride.
Okay.
An air ride suspension, meaning you have to have airbags in order to drive these vehicles, right?
Okay.
And there are different certifications that you can get. So you can do, non-air ride or CDL, non-CDL. Most CDL trucks are going to have your airbags, your air rides, and all that. Okay. Specifically, you see here. You got your emergency line, your service line, your electrical.
Okay.
And your electrical line. Without these things plugged up, you can't move any of this.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is really what powers the truck, is these wires right here.
That's what powers the truck, man.
Interesting. Okay.
And, you look over here. Notice I told you that this is a hopper truck?
Yeah.
Everything gets done from the inside.
Okay.
And everything comes out from down.
Oh, from these little things down here.
Yeah. So these are called commodity doors.
Okay.
So if you're hauling, outside your standard grains Milo, corn, wheat.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a lot of the byproducts.
Okay.
So example, I hauled chicken meal last week, which is some really nasty stuff. if you're trying to dump it out of a small door, it's not gonna work, man.
Okay.
It's gonna take you 2.5 hours to get it all out. Versus when I open it up in this hopper, 10 minutes.
Right.
If that.
Okay.
But over here, this is a newer trailer, but again, it's dirty because I'm playing in the dirt all day long.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, the most interesting thing about this is I can haul a crap ton of weight.
Okay.
And get paid.
Gotcha. And you get paid off the weight that you produce?
Get paid off the weight.
So gotta move the weight. Good stuff, man. Well, it's hot out here. We in Houston. Let's head inside, bro. Well, man, I hope y'all enjoyed that little intro. Got some insider knowledge into the trucking industry. We're about to dive a little bit deeper. So again, man, thanks for coming on, bro. This is like a second time I've had you on the pod. Very early on, I don't even know if we had a name of the podcast when we first filmed that episode. I don't think you had a name. I mean, I know you do content as well, so that was very early on. So now we've both kind of grown. So happy to kind of rehash it up and talk about areas we've grown in. So why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll get into it.
Yes, sir. So for those who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Marty Amale specifically. I'm an owner operator. I've been in the trucking game for 3 years as a business owner. Indirectly for about 30, because my dad was in that trucking space growing up. I'm based in the Houston area. I enjoy anime. I enjoy football. Shout out to the Longhorns. And recently, most of my time I spend with my wife now.
Yeah, congratulations, newlywed. Congratulations. I love that, man. I made a post on Facebook the other day, and I feel like I just seen this trend of successful entrepreneurs, have submitted themselves to God, are married or in a committed relationship, and are making content. And I just feel like all the guys I'm watching, that's the criteria, what's going on in their life. And not to say if you're not married, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think number one and number three, you gotta be committed, and you gotta be making content. And then if you got a wife, you gotta have a wife that rocks with you. And I feel like with Misha behind you, bro, there's nothing that y'all can't accomplish together. So I'm happy for y'all, man. So absolutely. Yeah. So talk more about like I know you said your dad was in trucking, so you've been around it for a long time, but like why did you decide to start doing trucking?
Yeah, so growing up, I was always interested in trucks, man. I didn't know why, I didn't know how that interest started, but I always loved the aspect of supply chain, transportation, being the grandson and great grandsons of farmers, overseas in Nigeria, right?
Okay.
I've always been interested in, the farm life and agriculture as a whole. So when I had an opportunity back in 2021, leaving corporate, I had that opportunity to become an entrepreneur and, involve some key people that allow me to make it happen and to be where I'm at today.
Yeah. Man, I think like your ancestors would be so proud of you, bro. I mean, you keep in like, even just, you said in Nigeria, your family were farmers, bro. I love that. And then now you work with mainly farmers, right? In terms of your niche and the type of product that you push. Like, I mean, that's really cool to hear. I didn't know that piece of your backstory, man. That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the business of trucking. I think obviously everybody knows like from a high level what trucking is, right? Take point A to point B, right? Getting paid to do it. But talk about like, I mean, what is the business of trucking? What are some of the things that most people don't know in terms of how you guys make money, how much money you guys make? I know for you, you were able to scale relatively quickly in terms of getting able to hit that 6-figure number pretty early on. So talk about like some of those components and like how people are able to be successful in trucking.
So the first thing is relationships. If you don't have relationships, you don't have any money in the game.
Okay.
Period. And with those relationships, you have to be okay with rejection. You have to be okay with competition. I liken being in trucking to being an athlete, right? The difference between being an athlete and being in business, specifically in transportation, is athletes, there's a lifespan on what your body can do.
Right.
In business, as long as you're alive and you have the ability to think, and you have the ability to understand what it means to utilize capital, people, media and technology, you can play this game forever.
Okay.
Right. So the key thing about the key thing to understand about transportation is you have to get, like you said, a product, or you have to offer service, and you have to be able to take your customer from point A to point B as efficiently and as cost effectively as possible.
Okay. And when you say cost effectively, is that like just how fast you get there?
So fast is relative in trucking.
Okay.
Now, literally, when you're driving, no, you don't want to be a speed demon, because you have a big machine that can kill people,
right?
And your job first and foremost is to protect everyone that's on the road,
yeah,
and to protect the product that you are hauling
for that customer client, right? When I say fast, I'm talking about logistically. Do you understand what route you need to take? Do you understand, the times to pick up and deliver? Do you understand that, if you can't, make it within that business day, what do you need to do to set up tomorrow and to give yourself an opportunity to, continue making that money, continue that cash flow, right? So, fast is really a culmination in trucking of decisions that you got to make sure that that product gets there on time.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is because, like, I guess from a media standpoint, I feel like we always see the bad scenario where a trucker gets into a wreck or falls asleep at the road, and it's like, okay, they are under this pressure to like get things fast and and obviously efficiently, right? So that's why I was curious, like, is that actually the truth of what's driving the trucking industry? Okay, it's all about speed. So it sounds like it's not necessarily speed. It's like efficiency and safety are ultimately kind of the biggest pieces there. Talk about, like, I guess how you get jobs, right? Because I think about, like, if you work for a trucking company and you're maybe a W-2 employee, I'm sure they just have a list of products and you just sign up, right? But like, as an independent contractor, like, how do you get like business? You know what I mean? Like, is that just like, is there a website you go to, or like, how does that work?
Yeah. So great question, first of all. And as a business owner, I'm going to talk about two different ways.
Okay.
And two different people, right? So you have, as a business owner, you are the entity, right? And then you have your contractors, which were one and the same, but just stick with me for a second. If you are the business, you are going direct to either the shipper or you're going to a broker. In this case, if you're working with brokers, then there are various websites where you can get what's called spot freight. Spot freight is essentially just a short-term contract where you're taking one or multiple loads for a given shipper or receiver, right? And you have direct freight, which in that case it's a long-term contract. So you're working with that farmer, you're working with that grain elevator, and you're moving as much of their product as possible. Right? With those websites, you can go. In my case, since I'm in the agriculture sector, I work with bulk loads. So they have their network of shippers, they have their network of brokers that I can call direct, and I can get in contact with them and say, hey, my name is Marty with IntelliShip. I'm an owner operator. I have X amount of trucks and trailers, and this is what I haul. Right. And that's how most of the conversations go.
Okay, got you. So it's outreach basically, in terms of either you're calling them being, hey, what jobs do you have to the strategic points, or you're in a network and it's kind of like, hey, you're just a part of, depending on what your contract is, that's kind of how you're getting paid basically.
Absolutely. It's sales on wheels, man.
Okay.
I mean, if you're
everything is sales, man.
If you're good, if you're good with cold calling and you're good with, email outreach and all those things, you have to do those. You have to perform those activities, as a business owner, and even as a independent contractor, what we call a 1099. You got to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really important that you kind of put your shame to the side.
Yeah.
And you got to call, because the more hands you shake, the more money you make.
Gotcha. So, I mean, there's a lot of OGs in the trucking game, right? Everybody's got an uncle, grandpa, somebody's been in the truck, you know what I mean? And so I think it's not like, I don't think it's foreign to most people in terms of like, okay, this is a way to build a business. Talk about the new generation. Is trucking changing, right? Is who you are as a trucker, is that different than who maybe like your grandpa was or your dad was as truckers?
Yeah. I would say today's trucker is vastly different.
Okay.
Because we're dealing with more regulations. We're dealing with more scrutiny, more eyeballs on us. We are dealing with the era of social media, right? So everything that we do, good or bad, is going to get posted somewhere. It's going to be on the internet floating around somewhere. And I also think that we, as a, I guess like this current generation, you got to think about how do you market yourself different from from the people of the past, right? It's very easy to go, work with a farmer and then you're locked in with that person for 10 years. Well, that farmer today is probably third or fourth generation, and they don't know me from Timbuktu.
Right. Okay.
So you're constantly having to market yourself. And then, for me, I thought early on, okay, I'm only one truck. and X amount of contractors. How in the world do I get in front of the right people at the right time all the time?
Right.
Social media.
Okay. So let's talk about that, because like the distinction you just made is, I think there's a business model where like people build fleets, right? Where it's just like how many trucks can you get, right? And it's a numbers game, right?
Absolutely.
You sounds like you're taking a little bit different route in terms of you, or it's kind of you sole proprietor. You're knocking it out, so that's why you're leveraging social media to build those relationships. So is that the strategy, or like are you kind of early on where you necessarily haven't like decided to make that leap into building a fleet?
Long term, you have to think of your business in 10-year increments.
Okay.
So when I first started, my first goal was, okay, let me leverage what I'm good at. And that's calling people,
Okay.
talking to people, making friends. Like that's a natural thing that I can do all day long and not get tired of it. Secondary to that is, can I sustain business for a long enough period of time?
Okay.
So that period is just the data. You got to collect the data to know that, okay, can I stay in business regardless of economic conditions and circumstances? Cool. The third part was, okay, I now have proof that I am who I say I am. I may not be in the game 10 years or 20 years like a lot of the OGs are, but in the year, 2 years, 3 years that I'm in it, can I replicate the same success that someone who's been in the game for 10, 20 years? And that's where the sales and all that come in. Last is when you are marketing your company out there, right? The marketing is in documenting what you do every day.
Okay.
So for those who have been on my pages, be it IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, you will see for the most part, I am doing something.
Yeah.
I'm hauling. I'm hauling some type of product. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
And I'm using that as my live resume to potential shippers and receivers and partners in the transportation supply chain sector to let them know, hey, I am here. I'm an active participant in this sector. Please give me money.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you mentioned the social media impact piece of it, because I think you're one of the few truckers that I know that actually markets themselves on social media to generate business. Like I've seen guys that have like meme pages, you know what I mean, where they'll like post stupid videos, or like it seems like they're just kind of like goofing off, or it's kind of a passion and they're like killing some time while they're on the road. But you're like, I can tell you're strategic about the things that you're saying, the type of things that you're showing. I think what sets you apart is like you're willing to show your failures, right? I mean, you talked about when mistakes that you've made and like tough things that happen. And to me, that's really interesting, because I'm like, like I don't think I've really seen anybody do that, right? So I've learned a lot about the trucking industry from just watching you be really authentic and organic about that. And so talk about that social media component of it. Like, why aren't more people marketing their trucking businesses on social media? And then talk about the impact of that. I mean, you mentioned briefly that it has gotten you, some contracts. I mean, is that where the bulk of your business comes from? How is that actually impacting you from, the X's and O's of your business?
Majority of my business comes from social media, man.
Really? Bro, how many truckers can say that, bro? Like, I've never heard a trucker be like, yo, man, I run my business through social media. Never heard it.
There's probably a lot out there, but they just don't tell you.
Yeah.
Right. And what's really key with social media is you got to understand that everyone cares and doesn't care about you at the same time. They care to say something about what it is that you're doing, because most people are afraid to put their business out there. And there is a taste to putting key information out there. Like, you're not going to see me put my phone number, or, I'm going to reveal my whereabouts to you at that moment in time, right? You have to do it within within a realm that allows you to be safe on the road, that doesn't attract unwarranted attention to you. But for the most part, when it comes to social media, like, I knew that if I can just focus on this thing for long enough, I know people are going to get tired, because it takes a lot of discipline to wake up and say, I'm gonna haul freight, and then I'm gonna talk about my day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about whether I made money, whether I lost money. Recently, I probably say for most of 2024, my P&L show that I've been making money, but my lifestyle, everything else, like I'm struggling, man.
Yeah, I
like,
know.
I'm hurting.
All the entrepreneurs are like, yeah, we know, like 2024, man.
And there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, okay, I'm doing all this work, but I'm only getting X result. So my inputs are wrong. And when you leverage social media to evaluate the state of your business, I don't have to, let years go by without, before I figure out, hey, this thing isn't working. I can look on my pages and see, okay, hey man, this week I was in the shop more than I was hauling freight. That's bad. Right. Or what I was hauling corn. For those who are really immersed in the business, the products that really pay you are the byproducts. For the off season. When it's harvest season, you want to haul as much milo, corn, wheat as possible, because during harvest season you're transporting that commodity from the farm or from the elevator to wherever that destination is, and typically they're short hauls. So imagine a regular individual makes $60,000 a year, right? I can make 60,000 in 2 months, working the same amount of hours as you, not you literally, but working the same amount of hours as someone who's working a desk job with less time. And all because I'm just, I have the right certifications, the right permits, all that. I can make $500 in an hour's time.
That's crazy, because I just didn't think about trucking that, because my assumption of trucking is like the long hauls, right? The guys trucking from Tennessee to Alabama, or from Texas to Florida. What I mean? That's what I was thinking. But you just described as a completely different business model. Like that's like short hauls, like timing the market, knowing like hey, who do you need to be, what kind of product you need to be shipping at what time of the year. That's really different, right? And I think that looks like a lot of other, that looks like the stock market, right? That looks like other business models that I think we might recognize. I'm like, okay, so trucking isn't as not, I won't say it's not as outlier as I thought it was in terms of how it works, but I think it's obvious, it's just a new industry, right? And I think the way people are approaching it, sounds like it's different than maybe what it's been done in the past, right?
Yeah. So
in terms of leveraging social media and stuff.
Of course. And when I have people come up to me and say, hey man, I saw your content. I'd love to get into trucking. Like, how do I get in? Do you think I'd be a good fit for, getting into a truck? And this industry has made me very honest. And I tell people, I can gauge how someone works, and I can gauge, their mannerism, their personality, and I can just tell them straight up, no, you won't make it, dude. Right? Because you're gonna fail a lot more than you're gonna win. And you gotta have the temperament to deal with unforeseen circumstances all the time. A tire busts on you, right? Good job, you gotta go fix it.
Yeah.
Your airbags went out. That sucks.
Yeah.
Better take it to a shop.
Yeah.
Right? Oh man, I don't have any money to pay my bills this week. Still do.
Yeah.
Right? Can you, can the masses deal with that type of failure day in and day out? On top of that, still document your process. On top of that, still make the phone calls, still figure out what your next move is, and have the patience to think ahead, 3, 4, 5 years. Oh, by the way, you're a married man now. By the way, your wife wants to have kids.
Yeah.
your parents want, both parents want to have grandkids. You want a house, you want this and that. So all these things, in a way, force you to be the force multiplier in your life.
Wow. Dang, that's good, man. So talk more about that force multiplier. Like what does that look like in terms of your where are you going with this, right? Because it sounds like it's tough, right? You're describing the reality of what it takes to grow a business, from the ground up. What is that next piece that you're striving for, and kind of opening the door for?
The first level of any business is you need to learn how to manage yourself.
Okay.
So that's the solopreneur. That person may have one assistant. Like largely you're managing yourself. The next step is you got to manage people. So have you stabilized your organization, your systems, to where you can teach someone else to do your job, fire yourself essentially.
Okay.
Once you graduate to that level, then the next step is, can you manage can those people manage other people?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking about the true management,
Right.
and being the visionary and carrying out what you want to accomplish, within that 10-year window, right?
Okay.
And then from there, worry about managing companies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're lucky enough, you can manage industries, or you become the industry standard. And then from there, now generational.
Gotcha.
Now what you did and what you taught and what you execute in business now stands the test of time, i.e. the Steve Jobs of the world, the Elon Musks.
And is that for you? Is that why you chose the niche that you chose in terms of like working kind of in the farm, moving corn and all that kind of stuff? Is that why you chose that particular route to kind of, I guess, maybe differentiate yourself and put yourself on that trajectory? Or is it kind of like, hey, just kind of worked out that way?
Agriculture is the basis for any business that you see today.
Okay.
This building was farmland at some point, right? The food that you consume, the shoes that you buy, the equipment, that you have for any given business, like it started from the ground. And when I look ahead and think, okay, from agriculture, what can I impact? What can I control? And what do I know is going to be there? Food's always going to be there.
Food's always going to be there. Yeah. Yeah, that's good, man. So talk about government contracts, man, 'cause I know that's been kind of a big piece of your business. I know a lot of people I've seen out there that's a great way to get stability in terms of, hey, the government's always going to pay their bills, right? So like talk about that piece of the business model and kind of the success you found with getting those contracts.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I am in the process of being awarded contracts, and by mean awarded is you got to bid to win.
Okay.
Right. And you have to play with players who've been in that space. When you talk about government contracts and commercial contracts, right? What I do on the agriculture side is commercial.
Okay.
Government contracts is, it's in the name, right? So whether you're dealing with a local, state, or federal agency, that is considered mailbox money. But it is time consuming to understand that world.
Okay.
And so the starting point is, okay, what do you do currently that translate transportation? And there are a myriad, thousands, tens of thousands of agencies that are looking for business, right? And what I realized early on was, okay, I first need to make sure that this side of my house is stable, the commercial side. Okay. And then I now need to focus, more of my efforts on the government contracting side, because with that, if government contracting essentially allows you to go from the managing yourself to managing people, because you have to most of the time get people to perform the scope of services that you are selling to the government.
Okay, got you. Okay.
And that's really a fast track, in my opinion, at least, to scaling your business. Most trucking companies, 1 to 3 trucks can do anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million a year in gross revenue. Okay. When you talk about government contracts, you could have one contract that awards you $250,000 for the year, $500,000 for the year. And you can still have the same amount of equipment. You can still have the same amount of infrastructure, depending on what it is. So it's really leveraging what you're doing now, and then taking that and saying, "Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Government, I can do this for you." And now you get to dictate your pricing, get to dictate how you want to get things done, so long as you fulfill what they're asking you to do.
Okay, got it. Okay. And you mentioned, supporting your family and newlywed, and like, how do you balance the business model with longevity with your family too, right? Because obviously this sounds like it's a demanding in terms of there's ways to be efficient with your time in terms of not having to necessarily make the long hauls, which I think you make good money on those long hauls, but obviously you're on the road for a long time. So you've kind of done more shorter routes. I mean, like, how do you find that balance of, the creating the content, being on the road, being married, growing your business? Like, how are you balancing all that?
Honestly, it's an imbalance, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what balance looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Right. I think when you're in growth mode, there's no such thing as balance. It's more so priorities.
Okay.
Hey, can I focus on this thing for a period of time, and can I communicate to everyone that's important to me that I need to focus on this thing, right? So think about any entrepreneur, like in the beginning stages of their business. You're not out, you're not partying, you're not, you're not spending time with a lot of time with family, right? A lot of your time is spent doing the thing.
Yeah.
And, hopefully, you can make that time.
Yeah.
I would say this current version, that season of me right now, I have decided to mix business with my personal life.
Okay.
Knowing that if I focus on my personal life and focus on getting my house in order, then the business in turn will sort itself out.
Right.
Early on, I was like, okay, I gotta focus on the business, and then I'm gonna focus on her. It's like, no. As you know, it don't work like that.
Yeah.
I think the faster that you can incorporate your spouse, the faster you can incorporate your family into what it is that you're doing. They don't have to necessarily know what your vision is fully, because only you can see it. But if they have a sense of direction of where you're going, then it allows you to focus on the business, which allows you to scale fast and allows you to be more creative in coming up with solutions, so that way you can spend more time with your family.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one thing you told me last year when we talked is, and I love how, every couple of months we're on the phone, and you're always so honest with me, bro. And I always super appreciate that. And I think it goes back to you just being a good, you know how to build relationships with people, and you know how to be honest and be like, hey man, and you told me, you're like, yo, make sure your wife is your number one client, right? And the funny thing is, I told my wife what you said, and so she reminds me all the time. She's always like, "Hey, remember I'm supposed to be your number one client, right? Like, would you do that for your client?" It's like really funny how that plays out. But I love how you mentioned the priorities, right? And how, like, if you can really focus on your family, that's going to give you the foundation you need, when it's hard, or even once you're crushing it and all the money's there, all the success, or all the prowess, whatever you're chasing. You still got to have that foundation of your family there, right? If you really want to keep that long, or if you want to have a more fulfilling life, I'll say, because not everybody necessarily has that. But yeah, I love the way you describe that. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about just kind of like where you're going. I know you talked really high level in terms of, hey, like scaling the business, these are the components of growing a business, right? But I want to know more about like when you talk about the vision, like what is the vision in the future of trucking from your perspective? Because you're part of the new generation. You're the guys that are getting contracts from social media. You're the guy who's documenting your process. You're one of the guys who's treating it differently, you know what I mean, and being more strategic with it. And the way we've talked about it sounds like that's different than maybe it's been done in the past. So talk about what is the future of trucking, and maybe that doesn't incorporate maybe you, like maybe where's the industry going that you hope to be a part of. Does that make sense?
So understanding media and understanding technology as it fits with transportation. So the core of trucking is not going to change. You more than likely going to need someone to operate that vehicle or operate that equipment. I know there's a bunch of AI and
yeah, the trucks that run by themselves and stuff,
autonomous trucking, and all that. Those things will come in time, but the essence of it is still not going to change. With media, it's us being more open about our journey, and I think that's going to attract more people with time.
Okay.
And to do it in such a way that highlights your personality. I also think for for me and for my businesses as a whole, the long-term goal has always been private equity, right? So in order for us to get into that game, you got to be really good at that one thing that you do, because that will be the thing that you'll be known for. And getting to that point.
And when you say private equity, you mean like you investing in other businesses, or getting private equity to invest in you?
Investing in other businesses.
Okay.
So having the capital, having the resources, having the brand name to be able to attract other businesses into your ecosystem. Yeah, that's what we're working towards long term.
So would that look like maybe you like buying a farm and like I guess controlling the whole process, like the whole streamline, of owning the transportation and the product, or kind of what kind of businesses would that be?
All the above. So when we talk about supply chain, I mean from from the bottom being the carrier, the trucking company, all the way to, you know, the big conglomerate, right? So if you have feed mills, I pay attention to, you know, how those businesses are run, grain elevators, what, you know, what that goes, what capital and resources and people go into that. Also, when we talk about media, right? So can we tell stories of other truckers and other small carriers over that time? Like, can we make it, can we make trucking a real brand that, you know, if someone's a college graduate, they don't automatically run to, you know, I need to get into the tech side. No, you can actually go get your CDL. You can go drive a truck. You can, you know, do the hard work, or you can manage the company, you know, things like that.
Okay.
So it's just expanding the interest over time.
Okay. On social media specifically, everybody wants to see the glitz and glamour, and I think you've done such a good job of just showing the journey. And I think people want to see the journey, right? And so I think it's going to be even cooler to see you continue to take strides. And I want to see, you know, that next level for you, being able to invest in other businesses, the technology piece. I think the technology piece is going to be massive, just because I think every industry is trying to understand how do we incorporate technology to work smarter and not harder. I definitely think truckers, man. Yeah, I know from as much as you guys work, I know y'all wanna work smarter, man. Ain't no reason y'all gotta be sweating them trucks all the time, man. As much as we can get you out that truck and get you making more money more efficiently. I know you have some really cool things coming down the pipeline that we'll talk about hopefully next year. But man, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man.
Cool. All right.